Okay, now we define the lower and upper average contraction rates of a template F as follows. Remember that a template F is a function from the non-negative real numbers to Rd. It's a vector valued function, and the first axiom in its definition says that the d component of it is in an increasing order. And the F is a piecewise linear. Piecewise linear. Now, let I be an open interval on which F is linear. For each integer, q between 1 and d, such that f sub q is strictly less than f sub q plus 1 on I. We let L plus minus so be the integers that depends on f, I, and q, which is between 0 and d plus minus. And here, d plus is m and d minus is n. And we let this L plus minus be chosen such that L plus L minus is equal to Q. And we have this FQ prime, which is defined to be the summation from I equal to 1 to Q of the derivatives Fi prime equal to L plus divided by M minus L minus divided by N on I. And we leave a remark here that this is guaranteed. This is guaranteed by the axiom 3 of the definition of templates. And next we shall introduce a notion called an interval of equality. An interval of equality for a template F on I is an interval left open, right closed, intersection with Z, where P and Q are between 0 and D. Satisfy that F sub P is strictly less than F sub P plus 1 and all the way equal to F sub Q, which is strictly less than F sub Q plus 1 on I. Now let us assign labels to those two equations we just wrote. and we use the same label as in the paper. And here's the convention. The convention is that f sub 0 is negative infinity and f sub d plus 1 is positive infinity. And a quick observation is that the collection of intervals of equality forms a partition of the integers 1 through d. And now we introduce a new notation. So if the integer points between p and q form an interval of equality for the template f of the interval I, then we let m plus minus of pq, which is a number that depends on f, I, p, q, where m plus minus of I, p, q is defined by f l plus minus f I q minus l plus minus f I p respectively. Remember that this is defined as a beginning as a solution to a system of equations. Equivalently, you should be able to see we can show that m plus minus are the unique integers such that the following system of equations are satisfied. The first one being m plus m minus, m plus m minus is equal to q minus p. And the second is that if you consider the summation of those derivatives where I ranges from p plus 1 to q is equal to m plus divided by m minus divided by n on I. And by using the definition of the templates, in particular the axiom 2 of the definition, you can show that m plus minus is greater or equal to 0. Now let us introduce two more notations. Let S plus be the set which is a union of all such intervals and S minus to be the subset which is a union of those intervals. The first one is the union of intervals from p to p plus m plus. The second one is the interval from p plus m plus to q. And by intervals here, we really mean the integer points in those intervals. And here we should note that the unions are taken over all intervals of equality for f on I. And here we have three quick observations. First, S plus and S minus are disjoint. And second, their union is precisely all those integers from 1 to d. And third, you can check that the number of points in S plus is m, and the number of points in S minus is n. And finally, we can give the definition of the lower and upper average contraction rates. Let little delta of I to be the number of pairs is a product set of S plus and S minus, where I plus is less than I minus. This is an integer between 0 and m times n. So the average is the integral from 0 to t of delta ft dt divided by the capital T, and we denote this guy by the capital delta. And here, this delta ft is defined to be delta fi over whenever t is in I. So this is a typo. Should be delta of f capital T. And the lower and upper contraction rates will just be the lim inf and lim sup of this capital delta as t goes to infinity. So this lower delta, which is the lower average contraction rates of the template, is the lim inf as t goes to infinity of this capital delta of ft. And the upper delta, which is the upper average contraction rates of f, is the lim sup of this capital delta of ft as t goes to infinity. So this is called the lower average contraction rates and this is the upper average contraction rates.